Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the Brentwood Rotary Club this lovely Friday. Glad to see a lot of guests and a lot of folks back after their spring break. Today, we have a great speaker, so we need to go ahead and get forward with this. Dale Llewellyn, you have the invocation. And Mark McFerrin, you have the pledge and four-way test.
Morning, everyone. Good to be here on, I think we've had 3 of the 4 seasons this morning. All right, let's pray, please. Lord, thank you for this day that you've given us. Thank you for the blessings you give us every day. Thank you for this club and how we have thrived, and you blessed us with so many things. So thank you for that. We pray that we serve you well in all that we do. Lift up prayers now for those that are tried with lots of different issues that are going on. For the sick, we ask for your healing and to be upon them. For the lonely, we ask that you would be a comfort for them, and for those that are in harm's way, whether they be near or far away, that you keep your hand of protection upon them. Now bless this time today, bless the food we've had, to strengthen us to serve you better. In Christ's name, amen.
Join me in the pledge to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And the four-way test for the things that we do and say: first, is it the truth? And second, is it bear all concern? Third, will it build goodwill and better friendships? 4, will it be beneficial to all? Number 5.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Friday, April 8th edition of the Brentwood Rotary Club. We do have a number of guests. It's like President Crossley, if you bring barbecue, people will show up. This is amazing. So we're going to start with Jennifer Bourne, who has a guest that she'd like to introduce to you guys.
All right, I'm going to let him mine. He's the health market.
Hey, Steve.
Hi, everybody. My name is Stephen Hall. I'm a Brentwood High School grad. Work in Green Hills selling health insurance and life insurance to individuals and families who need help. That's it. Yeah.
Thank you for being here, Stephen. Jason Hulse has a guest.
All right, I want to welcome Marcus Maniz with Stronger Than My Father. Great guy that has a great purpose. He runs a nonprofit that covers Southeast Nashville and Antioch. He provides after-school care for kids and also mentorship for young men. So get to meet him. Great guy. Marcus, Stronger Than My Father.
Welcome, Marcus.
Marcus, thank you for being here. Sheila Cleveland has a guest.
Hello, my guest is County Commissioner Tom Tunnicliffe. And when I heard there was bourbon being spoke today, I knew he would be the person, because that's what he loves to do.
So you're saying it's the bourbon and not the barbecue. I'm with you. All right, I'm going to the other side of the room. Our Rotarians did not coordinate their guests to be in one place. Ted Elanchilan, you have a guest.
So I have Brajesh here today with us, and I hope you will join us soon.
Hi guys, my name is Brajesh. I just moved here about a year ago. Ted was nice enough to let me come and visit, so thank you guys for having me.
Welcome, Rajesh.
Thank you for being here. And finally, Roger Greenup has 2 guests that he would like to introduce.
Thank you. I have a couple of guests today. I'll take them in chronological order.
Go.
First, Belle McDowell, Williamson Chamber Director of Government Affairs, right? And some of you know him already, so please welcome him. Secondly,
Mike hasn't dropped it way down.
here a number of times. He took on a shirt last minute. We heard we were having the bourbon discussion. So Randy Swanson, thank you.
Welcome, Randy.
And Jason Cook also has a guest that he would like to introduce.
Hello, everybody. Natasha was kind enough to let me drag her to her first Rotary meeting, but I appreciate you all being so kind and welcoming her, and it's always great to be here. So it's good to be in here and see you all today. Thank you.
Glad y'all are all here.
President Crossley, back to you.
That's good. Awesome. All right, and we have some members who haven't been here for a while, so it's good to see you guys here again too as well. Today, we are going to have Happy Bucks, and It's really important to remember that what we're giving today is going toward Polio Plus. So I'm going to take a quick look at some slides. If we put those up. No big deal. Sorry about that. I'd like to know what you're giving to you beforehand. So this is the never-ending gift. So we're going to move on from that. But if you see this, this will remind you that we're giving this week, not next week because we're not here, but the week after as well. So in the next slide, it talks a little bit about World Immunization Week. That's this month. I know we have World Polio Day, the 24th of October, but World Immunization Week has got 99% of polio, the wild type, gone, but they found one case in Malawi. So it's back in a child that was under the age of 5 years old. So it's a constant battle because in Malawi, less than 80% of the people are vaccinated. So they're trying to really rein this in and isolate it to keep it from spreading. So remember that anything that you give, first of all, is tax deductible, but more importantly, it's matched 2-to-1 by Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. So please give generously. And I'd like us to reach, I'm going to match it up with my presidential fund to hopefully send $3,000. So if you guys can give me half of that during Happy Bucks the next couple of weeks, I'd really appreciate it. All right. Now, speaking of Happy Bucks, who's happy? Anybody? All right. Will somebody come grab the basket and take it around real quick? I had not designated anybody. Thank you, Keely. Tom Carr. Very little. Thank you.
I'm happy to report that there are no Florida State athletes in jail right now, but we're not winning anything either. So I don't know what's, choose your poison, I guess.
That's an announcement that may change on a week-to-week basis.
Yeah.
Okay, Patty. I'll you. Yeah, exactly. I am happy that you all were so nice to my son last week. I intentionally did not introduce him as my son because I did not judge the competition for the same reason. He was the young man who spoke about pornography, and you all were nice enough to award him the win. I made sure that none of the judges, except one, Devin knew who he was. Other than that, none of the judges knew he was my son, and I did not judge. So I really appreciate you all being nice to him. He spoke twice in that competition. You may remember a couple years ago, he was the one who spoke about police brutality to the police chief. So this is my son is not afraid to stand up and create waves. I don't know where he gets that. It must be got to be his mother. Anyway, we're very excited. He's most likely going to the University of California, Irvine. We've spent years, worried if he's going to end up in a place that suits him. I think it will. So happy to have that process behind me.
Oh, yeah.
And I guess I have a huge tuition check that I'm going to write in the next few weeks. So I'm joining that club for those of you who are members. Thank you.
All right.
UC Irvine anteaters, by the way.
Yes.
The anteaters, the fighting anteaters.
It's mainly about golf today with the tables, and I appreciate that. But I always have a success story, and I want to share with you what happened last week. I got a call a couple of weeks ago from one of our members who said, I was looking at this list you gave me of potential sponsors, and he said, I see this thing on here about the rich guy you know. And he said, I know this guy. And he said, I've met him. I've been on a trip with him. He's a real good friend of a friend of mine. And he said, I'm going to ask him. I said, great. So 2 weeks go by, I don't hear anything. Tuesday of this week, he calls me and he says, I'm meeting with this guy tomorrow. And I said, oh, good. And he said, I am so nervous. And I said, don't be nervous. I said, just ask him what he can do for us and let him know. So he goes and he meets with him on Wednesday, right? And he walks in and he tells him what he's got. He's worked at Rotary Club. So we're having a golf tournament. Love for you to be a sponsor. He says, the guy said, well, what do you got? So he shows him the list of sponsorships that all of you have. And he shows him this list and the guy says, well, I kind of like that platinum sponsor, $5,000. Well, problem is the platinum sponsors are sold out. And the member knows that. And so he says, well, man, that's wonderful, but we're sold out. Those have playing spots and all of our playing spots are full. So we're sold out of those. Guy says, I don't play. I don't care about, take my $5,000 and use it somehow in your golf tournament. So he did. $5,000, totally unasked. And all he did was ask. a friend of his who has money. Y'all get the tip? Thank you.
That's awesome.
Who else is happy? Just happy. Another just happy person. Who else? Happy? Happiness is catching on.
I've been out sick for the last couple of weeks. I don't get sick very often, but 2 trips to the doctor, 1 trip to the emergency room when I passed out and fell on my face. Susan was yelling at me with a baseball bat. And but I'm back again, and well, if you ask it the truth, I get my $20 back.
You didn't need to.
So if you fly into Albany, New York, and drive a couple hours west and take a right turn and drive a couple of hours, you end up near Cooperstown. But you don't go that far. You stop in a little place called Gilbertsville. Gilbertsville has 350, 400 people, maybe, if you count the cows. And in that little town, there are 3 businesses, one of which is the 5 Kids Bakery. And that bakery has just been awarded the #1 bakery for upstate New York for 2022.
Wow.
It is, the baker is my daughter-in-law, and the cash giver and product deliverer is my son. So good on them.
Oh, sorry. I'm quick. You gotta catch me. I mean, just dump it all in there. Thank you, sir. Let's see. Oh, there's more.
Sheila.
But wait, there's more. Somebody drops a set of Ginsu knives in here and we'll have a day.
Thank y'all so much.
Hi. I learned something moving to Nashville, to be careful about what you say where you've been the week before. I made the mistake of telling people that I was in St. Thomas. And they said, "Are you feeling better?" Make that mistake again.
I'm happy today. You think I should be sad because we missed it by 3 points, but my Tar Heels did. They were runner-up this year in the national championship. So based on where they started, we're very happy.
All right.
Yes, so I'm happy today and excited for my cousin. She's going to be competing in the Miss USA Indiana competition this weekend. So if she wins, then she'll be representing for Miss USA. So really excited for her. And it's opened up a lot of doors for her. So she's an amazing young lady. So awesome prayers for her.
Wish her luck.
Hey, Curry, good choice on the barbecue. And Tom Carr. Tom, I'm over here. I'm over here. Okay, I'm sitting next to Marcus. He's a Florida State grad, okay? I'm trying to straighten this out. I don't think he knows that you're a Florida State fan or a grad, okay? You kind of upset him with the jail thing and talking about all that stuff, so. No, it's cool. It's cool. All right. All right, going once, going twice.
All right. Thank you, everybody. Appreciate you. Pancake Day, John, you have any update for us? Okay. Y'all, 15 days. Just saying.
That's right. Pancake Day is 2 weeks from tomorrow. You probably noticed we put tickets on the tables for everybody. Put 40 for each member. If you need more, please let us know. As we talked about before, I think you know that the event is free and we're accepting donations at the door, but the tickets are a great way to let people know when and where it is. There's also some flyers that if you have an establishment in Brentwood and could put that up or know someone who would in their window, it's a great way to advertise for the event. And there are some signs in the back that we would love for you to take and put out in your yard starting Easter Sunday, the weekend before the event, so that people will see that and know to show up Saturday morning. So let me know if you need any more tickets or anything. I'll be around. Thanks.
And y'all do need to get those signs today because we won't be meeting next week. Can't wait till next week to get them. If you're going to put them up on Easter Sunday, okay? No meeting next week. No meeting next week here. One more thing. We have 3 fantastic individuals so far who have decided to defend the honor of this club once again in the History Buff Bowl for the city of Brentwood. We have Keely Hall, we have Michael Heineman, and we have Mayor Ray Little. So we could use 2 more folks if y'all want to be in that august group of individuals to wipe up that competition this year. We came so close last year, but we will do better this year. And we're going to bring a contingent of individuals to cheer this year. It will be August the 14th from 2 to 4. That's a Sunday. So if you are a history aficionado, Warren, you gonna do it? Yeah, boom. Warren Bryant, number 4. So there's a place left. You can only have 5. So if you're interested in that, please let me know, because it's a great day and we are in competition oftentimes with the morning club, with the library board. So it's stiff, but we will end up being the winners this year. I guarantee you. So thank you so much. All right, boom. And now, Jonathan, you want to introduce our guest or do we? We're done. Yeah.
It is my honor to introduce you my friend Jeff Hopmeyer. I'm going to read a little bit about his bio because he has quite an impressive biography. Jeff has years of progressive experience in food, wine, spirits, beer, bulk sourcing, mergers, acquisitions, branding, marketing, turnaround, and capital sourcing. He is a global advisor specializing in mergers and acquisitions and capital for the adult beverage industry. His group is also one of the largest suppliers of bourbon, whiskey, and other bulk spirits to the whole industry. He's the former CEO of Starbucks' largest preferred food supplier, with 4 consecutive appearances on the Inc. 500 list of the nation's fastest growing private companies. He's a former CEO of LSE listed adult beverage company, former CEO of one of the larger wineries on the central coast of California, and now the managing partner and founder of Brendiamo Group, which is a small dedicated team in the US and the UK. Brendiamo Group is the leading provider of bourbon, whiskey, consulting services, mergers, acquisitions, and consumer products with a focus on the beverage industry that likes to operate without much fanfare. The company partners with and affiliates have owned and operated successful beverage companies, distributors and import companies, public and private, and played an instrumental role in the growth of the beverage industry. This guy's a mover and a shaker, I'm telling you. Brendiamo Group's skilled professionals have well-established expertise, including deep understanding of the beverage industry, including craft, spirits, wine, and beer, along with the skills, experience, and resources to successfully complete all types of industry transactions. Within the industry, Jeff has worked with and is in constant contact with the highest level with teams from LVMH, Pernod Ricard, Constellation, Bacardi, Gallo, Campari, Kendall Jackson, and many others. In addition to his advisory services, the Brendiamo Group has also become one of the leading global suppliers of bulk bourbon and whiskey to the industry, and has also created the first electronic marketplace for bulk spirits called Distill One. In addition to running this business, Jeff serves on a number of different boards, including the Amber Beverage Group, the Bardstown Bourbon Company. He's a non-executive director for the SPI Group in Luxembourg. He's the treasurer of the Albert and Ann Mansfield Foundation in Nashville and in Chicago. So he does a number of things. I may look like the most interesting man in the world. Jeff is the most interesting man in the world. So please welcome my friend, Jeff.
I got to write that for Jonathan, so that's good. So thank you. I'm glad to be here. I know we're here to talk about bourbon, so I am more than happy to go through all this history and all this stuff about bourbon, but I can tell you that in the amount of time you have left, I would much rather just answer questions. If I can handle any question you probably throw out about bourbon. I do have a distillery in Kentucky. and about 266,000 barrels of bourbon in a warehouse. So we also have scotch, tequila, rum, Irish whiskey, all around the world. So hit me, what do you got? So interestingly, this is the first time I've done this and not brought samples because Jonathan told me I couldn't bring them. Usually everybody's liquored up by the time I get up here, so it's pretty good.
I got a question for you.
Yes, sir.
With regard to things like Eagle Rare and early age sour, some of those things that I guess Buffalo Trace. How come it's so plentiful on the West Coast and it's so hard to get around here?
Well, the real reason is because there are 5 states that enjoy the most beverage alcohol in terms of retail sales: California, Texas, Florida, New York, and Illinois. That's where the product goes, because that's where we get what we call depletion growth, which is just the sale at retail. So they get the most product first.
I think the best thing ever invented was that testing of bourbon. But my question is why, Jack Daniels, even though it's as good as bourbon, it's not called bourbon. And some of the Tennessee whiskey, they say Tennessee bourbon whiskey. What's happening?
So good questions. It's all about marketing, but all bourbon is whiskey, but all whiskey is not bourbon. That's the way it works. And really, from 50,000 feet, anybody know the real difference between whiskey and bourbon? Right. Whiskey goes in a used barrel, bourbon goes in new barrels. That's really what it is. So we can go through mash bills, which are the recipes and things like that. But the real truth of it is that's what the difference is. In Tennessee, it is called bourbon whiskey, and it can go through a special process where it's charcoal mellowed to be Tennessee. But again, there's not a heck of a lot of what we call TTB regulations around it. A lot of it is marketing. And that's the way they push it. But it is, because it goes into a new barrel, technically a bourbon.
So first a comment, I really would like to get into doing what you do. Can you help me later with that? We'll talk more, but yeah, so Tennessee has some of the goofiest liquor laws in the world. Are you involved in any? I know they've got these wholesalers that, are just, paying the legislators all kinds of money to keep it like it is. But are we making any movement in getting rid of some of these silly, you can't buy it until 10 o'clock, or you can't buy it on Sundays and stuff like that? Are you working towards that? Or?
That would not be something that I would work towards. And I would tell you that that is controlled by about 4 or 5 individuals that own liquor distributors in the state. And they are the ones that
oligarchs
are helping. The rules go in whatever favor that they would like them to go into. It is outside of my realm, not something we participate in.
Well, you've got a lobbying organization, don't you?
Not for me.
Well,
So
but you're a part of, yeah. Don't you?
We try to stay in gray. We don't like black or white, so we'll ride in between, because we supply on either side of the coin.
We want Total Wine and more everywhere. That's the way.
We sell barrels, so it works out great.
We've seen a lot of startup distilleries, craft distilleries coming on over the past 10 years or so. How much of their product do they actually make? Because I've heard that there's the contract manufacturing space, especially in bourbon, is huge. So I'm just curious, like a lot of these that we see coming in, how much of their product they actually make?
It's a great question. And if a new distillery comes online and says they've got 4-year-old product in their bottle, that it had to be sourced, right? So with a lot of these craft guys that come on, read the age statement on the label. The reality is, under the rules, if you're 4 years old or older, you don't have to put an age statement on it. If it's under 4 years, you have to list the age. So you can look and see, and then it's really just a matter of, well, if the distillery only opened their doors a year ago, it's sourced. But how many people in here drink Angel's Envy? 80% of the product that's in Angel's Envy comes through me. It's not made by Bacardi. So this is not a craft element. We contract and make about 95,000 barrels a year. And out of those barrels at 4 years old, we'll get about 28 cases of product out of it. So, you know, there are a lot of brands that I am sure you could mention. Some of them are some of the most expensive, like Kentucky Owl, which is a very big collectible product out there. 100% of that material came through us. But if you go to the liquor store and you buy Jim Beam 10-year-old rye, it's $29.99 a bottle. In Kentucky Owl, it's $850 a bottle. Exactly the same product. I buy it in tanker cars. So that is part of the realities of this industry. So just make sure you know what's in it.
Given that you age the product anywhere from what, 4 to 8 years, how do you know how much to make?
Another good question. So in the state of Kentucky and largely here, the first year you fill a barrel, we use wine barrels. So it's 53 gallons, but it's actually 63.6 proof gallons because we're filling the barrel with 120 proof, right? So you get more alcohol in it. The first year, the barrel loses 10%. Every year after that, it loses 4%. It also varies. If it's up on the high floors, I'll lose more. If it's on the low floors, I'll lose less. So honestly, there's absolutely no way to know. And the market swings. Like right now, there's a whole bunch of people in love with wheated bourbons. Well, we didn't lay down enough wheated bourbon when we all started this. So there's a shortage. So we're all making it now. So, but 4 years from now, it'll be something else. Well, we don't, it's really expensive and we're aging this product for a long time. You know, some of these could age 15 to 20 years. So you do your best to forecast where you want the brand to grow and how you want it to move forward. And you just backfill in the barrels. And a lot of times, you know, these barrels are made of wood. So every barrel is unique and different. And it may not work right with the blends you're doing. The barrels leak, they break. We lost 2,000 barrels in a rick house that collapsed in Kentucky. You know, things happen. So you just never know.
I got two questions. One, do they still have, is it $100 a year tax on any barrel that ages in Kentucky?
So we have what's called an ad valorem tax, and it varies based on the age of the barrel. So the first 2 years, barrel tax is $2.16, and it just moves up as the barrel ages. I've never seen a $100 barrel tax, but I suspect it could be there on a 20 or 25-year-old barrel, but I've never seen it.
And then my other, what are your thoughts on Belle Mead bourbon? Is it being discontinued and they're just going to their product that they make themselves?
So I know Charlie and the boys really well. My understanding is the Belle Mead brand is being, I don't know if terminated is the right word, but they're moving to Nelson Brothers versus Belle Mead. And that brand, I think, will probably be on the market from Constellation at some point.
About a year ago, I had a guys trip scheduled to the Bourbon Trail, but canceled just with COVID restrictions. To the best of your knowledge, have those been lifted with large groups?
Oh yeah, we've been up there. I go up every 2 weeks. So you can go anywhere. Restaurants are open. Everything's open up there.
So back to your statement, why does the difference on the floors make a difference in how the barrels live? You said the upper floors.
Sure. So what really happens in the barrel as it sits there, when it gets hot, it soaks the liquid into the barrel. And when it gets cold, it pushes it back out. So that process is really what gives you the vanillas, the caramels, and a lot of the flavors. because the rick house is cold, lower, closer to the ground, you don't get the same extraction. So it takes longer to age the product there. The high floors will be really hot. I mean, it can be 110, 120 degrees up there. There's no AC, there's no fans, there's no nothing. And that heat gives the bourbon a faster aging process, but it also creates a high proof. So I can have product on the top of the rick house, on the high floors. When we fill the barrels, we fill at about 120 proof. If I leave it on the top floors, when I pull that barrel out, it can be at 140 proof. That same barrel on the bottom floor be at 107. So it really materially changes. But when you do a rick house, so our rick houses have about 53,000 barrels in them. And if you take a barrel from here, you have to put another barrel here because the rick house will fall over. So, and each barrel is about 700 pounds. So you can't just go and rotate the barrels. You can't pick them. You can't move these from here to here. It doesn't work. So when you put it up there, it stays there.
Two unrelated questions. One, speaking of the moving in and out of the barrel, what do you think about the concept ocean? And then the second is, do you feel like you still have any influence taking away from your product by bootleggers?
The second question's easy. No. The first question is regard to ocean, which is, if you know Jefferson's Ocean, there is a brand that they say they put the barrels on the boats and it travels and it rocks and it causes a better product. I don't know how long that really works really well because we actually bottle it and make it for them up at our distillery. So, so we make 18 different brands up there. But what I will tell you is that Ingram, the Ingram family here, Hank has a brand, and we put barrels on the Ingram barges. First one actually sunk, so that was a bummer. But we did retrieve barrels. We learned a lot. But what happens when you have the evaporation in the barrel? That top portion, that wood's unused. So it's of no benefit to anything. But if your barrel's moving, you actually get a better ratio of wood to liquid. So you will get a faster development on the liquid. So generally we say like a 3-year-old bourbon will taste like a 4-year-old bourbon. Because that rocking allows you to use all the wood. It really works really well. It works great on rye because rye is spicier and usually takes longer to age. So if you can put that extra time in it to utilize that wood, it's really great. Yes, sir.
On the subject of ocean, why don't you tell us about the new experiment that you've done with Brad?
So Brad Paisley and I own a little brand, and we've been traveling with barrels on his tour trucks, and it's been going around to concert venues with him for the last couple of years. And we launched it about, I don't know, 4 or 5 months ago, and we sold out 5,000 cases like this. We now just bottled 27,000 cases, and it's out there at $100 a bottle. But Brad, actually, all through COVID, he and I were on Zooms tasting and blending and creating the blends for it. But if you ever go to one of his concerts or you see a truck cruising by that's called the Rolling Rick House, it is loaded with 90 barrels of bourbon. There's no doubt about it.
One of the things that I saw, the Netflix documentary Heist, and if you haven't seen this, you probably should. It's about Bourbon Gate and the guys that lifted a bunch of barrels and cases from a distillery in Kentucky. How big of a problem is shrinkage now for someone that distills as much as you do?
You know, we don't well, one, I've never had a barrel stolen. So theft is not an issue. What tends to happen, like last week, we bought 100 barrels of 12-year-old bourbon from Barton. They roll those barrels onto the truck and deliver them to our warehouse. Even if those barrels are empty, they roll them on the truck. So our business operates at an as is, where is. So you could pay $10,000 for the barrel and it would be empty. You have no way of knowing. So shrinkage for us is more about actually buying something and not having any liquid in it, which happens a lot, especially as the barrels get older, because the wood separates, right? And it just leaks out. And you never know, because in a rick house, it's the barrels are stacked right next to each other. I mean, it's not like a winery where you can weigh them and refill them and do things to them. You go up, you want to sample, you actually take a DeWalt drill a hole in the barrel. You have a little cup there to catch it, and then you put a birch plug in it to plug it back up. And that's the way we sample them. So it's crazy. Angel share is the evaporation. So as I said, so the first year we lose about 10%. And every year after that, about 4%. Obviously, if we're in Texas, it's going to be a lot higher loss. If we're in Wyoming, it's less. So for bourbon, we use New American Oak, but we've experimented with Mezzanera oak from Japan. Mezzanera oak is actually a much tighter grain. So those Japanese barrels take 10 to 15 years before you get the same interaction as you would with New American Oak. But certainly for bourbon, it's New American Oak. And then we take the used barrels after we dump them, and they either end up in Scotland, Ireland, or Mexico. And that's what they age all the other products in, the scotches and the Irish whiskey and tequila. Yes, sir.
When you bottle these and you have barrels on the top that have a higher percentage of alcohol versus the barrels on the bottom, and you buy it in the store, do they still have the same content? Mix them, or how does that work?
So when we have a brand, we have a profile that we're trying to match and keep consistent. So we will blend barrels to create what the outcome is that we think keeps with the brand. So we can take 140%, mix it with 107, and end up at 110 by just adding water. So that, most of these barrels are going to be in that 118 to 122 proof, and we just use water to take the proof down. And as we take the proof down, the benefit for us is the taxes are lower. So when you see Jack and everybody else reduce their proofs, which they've done over the years, it's to help them maintain a lower retail shelf price. And that's what they do.
I need an unbiased answer to this one. What's your favorite single barrel?
I don't have any favorites. Some of my favorites. I guess I go through cycles, right? First off, you should know, and Jonathan will tell you, I mix all my bourbon with Diet Coke. I don't drink it straight. So I could drink Pappy. I can drink anything. And I'll mix it with Diet Coke. That's the way I like it. That's the way I'm going to drink it. So it's plain and simple. I guess I'm kind of fortunate because I just go up to my office and I have a plastic jug, a 12-year-old or 15-year-old, because there's samples coming off barrels. What have I had lately? I guess I've been drinking probably more Blanton's right now. It seems to have a nice mellow finish to it for me. So I enjoy that. I also am a big fan. I've got some of that 140 proof that melts an ice cube like this, but it tastes about 90 proof. So, and it's not out there. So again, it's kind of like, I don't really buy bottles of bourbon So we just kind of, I bet if I went home, I bet if I went to the office today, there's probably 40 new samples of different stuff for us to try.
You, in just explaining the process, it seems like a really inconsistent process as far as when a barrel's in a brick house and all that. How can you make consistent tasting whiskey or bourbon? I mean, I know you talked about water, but it seems like it would be a much more difficult process.
I think it probably used to be a lot more hands-on, but today we use gas chromatograph, gas chromatography and other equipment in a lab to keep the product parameters in. We know what, we're always constantly sampling the barrels. So we know really where they are at in development, and we know what our final blend is. So we just find the right bits and pieces. But today, so much of it is done as a quality control lab exercise. It's the only way we can ensure consistency from batch to batch to batch. But, you do have a ton of variables, and you will find those great barrels and you don't blend them. You park them off for a single barrel, or you do something else with them. But I had some guys from North Carolina in the office the other day, and they were tasting through some samples for their first buy for their first brand. And they said, we don't really like this. They tasted one, didn't like it. It was a 3-year-old bourbon. And I said, watch. And I took some 36% from another barrel, mixed it half and half, said, taste this. They're like, wow, that's great. That's what we do.
So if you want to have a whiskey tasting at home, or you were to set something up for us, say we've got 4 different bottles to taste, how would you set that up so that we would be able to taste it the best?
I would never tell you what bottles I would serve, because I would duct tape them up so that you didn't know.
Right, right.
And I'd let you see what you liked.
Would you do it with water or ice or?
No, I would do them plain. But I would make sure that the glassware is clean, because so much of the actual ice cube and the water creates nuances in the product as it melts. And I can't control the melt time. I can't control any of that. So I would drink it straight, all at room temperature, all the same proof though. Because if you put a 110 proof product against a 96 proof product, I can tell you right now, you're going to like the 96 proof product, hands down. So that heat makes a difference in the taste. So you just got to do it blind. And it's much more fun that way. And it's fun to mix up mash bills, because as we were talking, you said you like caramel. And I said, well, the way you do that is with the 36% rye in the formula, add a little bit more to it. It heightens the caramel in the end flavor. So we can tweak all kinds of things, knowing those kinds of things.
Just talk about maybe some of the future innovations in the bourbon industry, and please tell me it's not bourbon seltzer.
I did just get bourbon toothpicks, so that I would tell you that the bourbon industry is as old and tired as they come. It is very hard to have innovation today because we won't tap a barrel for 10 years. So the innovation comes more in data tracking. It comes more in following the harvest all the way through and tracking it, putting RFID technology on barrels to track it in warehouses, things like that. There is no real innovation in making bourbon. I mean, there are things that you've heard of where people talk about accelerating the aging process, right? By sending music into the barrel, or shaking it, or spinning cone technology that spins it really fast and separates it and pulls it together. It's all bunk. None of it works. We use that product and we sell it actually to China by tanker loads, because they can mix 1% in whiskey they make over there and call it American whiskey. So a lot of that stuff ends up over there. Yes.
Do you, with all the new technology, do you still use a master taster? And if so, does that, from what I understand, master tasters don't usually drink alcohol at all. They just
They
sip and
smoke a
spit.
lot. So we don't necessarily use a master taster anymore. We have master distillers and master blenders. Both are different. Neither qualifies them, I would tell you. I think a master distiller is really just somebody who's been in the business a really long time. Bardstown, where we are, one of the distilleries, we have a Hall of Fame master distiller. Don't know that it really, Steve's a great guy, very talented, but not sure it really makes a difference. But it's great on a business card. And master blenders like Dixon Dedman, who did Kentucky Owl, I think he's great. He's an award-winning James Beard chef as well. And, you know, he's got a great palate, but we still stuck 10-year-old Jim Beam product in his fancy bottle and sold it for $800 more without doing anything to it. So, you know, I don't know how much it really matters today as much as it's more a marketing opportunity. What really matters are the people behind the bar mixing cocktails and the consumers, and they tell us what they like.
Push over here. How are they allowed to do that? Like, I mean, how's that not like false advertising or lying? You're putting something that's $10 or it says this and it's not. I mean,
Well, they're not telling you that they bought it from somewhere else. They don't have to. The government regulation is just an age statement. So it's an age statement and a mash bill. That's all we have to say. So there's no further clarifications of it. There are some coming in American single malt and some other things, but it'll never change. It's been around for hundreds of years that way, and that's the way it'll be. You will pick a bottle off the shelf, and unless you read the fine print on the back and it says that it was a blend of so-so, which they don't have to say, you'll never know.
are there any reasons why there's so much whiskey and bourbon made in this part of the country? And if so, what is that reason still valid today?
I'd like to tell you it was because of the water, right? That's limestone water is what they would say. But honestly, we're hooked up to city water. So I don't know. And we're the 6th largest distillery in America. So I'm not sure that, but in the past, that was it. And the rivers were there so they could transport the barrels up and down, right? There's not necessarily any real reason for it today, except, you know, the Kentucky area has kind of become Napa, right, for bourbon. But really, bourbon's made all over the world, just as wine is. It just happens that that Kentucky area provides a higher ROI on a per bottle basis than other places. But really, it's Kentucky, Tennessee, Texas. Those are really the 3 premium markets for making really good, high quality bourbon today.
Do you have any relationship with Russia at this point?
As I told Jonathan earlier, I would say no. I resigned from the board of Stoli a couple of years ago when they offered to take me on a private, my wife and I on a private train to St. Petersburg on a private track. And I said, it's a little too close for me to the Russians. So I backed away years ago, but I do still talk to them. And honestly, Stoli was never made in Russia. It was just a marketing point. It's always been made in Latvia. Nobody knows that in the history. It is not Russian. It just got caught up in it. But I have had wonderful trips there and wonderful trips all over the world working with it.
I'm going to help Drew with that. You were the one that asked the question about, it's because it was settled by so many Scots-Irish, and they had to give them another pastime besides fighting. So they made whiskey.
What else? Any other questions? Good. Perfect. Well, great. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Jeff, we appreciate and could keep you here for hours more, I'm sure. We have a book that we read to first graders. I was telling you a little bit about this. And if you would, sign your name. The pen is yours to keep. And we will tell them a little bit about what you do. So the first graders will get their first education of a bourbon making. So there will be a meeting of the BRCCF right after this in the art room, just as a reminder. Tom, Brajesh, Steve, Kel, Randy, Marcus, Jim, glad to have you back, by the way. Natasha, glad to have you all here today. Now I've got a couple of appropriate slides to end the meeting. First of all, I like this one. I'd rather be somebody's shot of bourbon than everybody's cup of tea. And there's a bonus to this, since you know I love Mark Twain and have had the time or two to partake of bourbon and a nice cigar. So his final words are, if I can't drink bourbon and smoke cigars in heaven, I shall not go. Is there anything else for the good of Rotary at this time? Please take a sign if you can. You got to take it today. And the tickets. We will not have a meeting next week. And if there's nothing else for the good of Rotary, please put your chairs up, tables up. We are adjourned until 2 weeks from today.